Welcome to a One Storyteller, where we bring you the most gripping, real-life inspired stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Today's story is one that will shock you, anger you, and ultimately leave you speechless. A ruthless police officer thought he could get away with anything, until he made a devastating mistake. Stay with us as we unravel this tale of power, corruption, and the ultimate reckoning. Eleanor Green was no ordinary woman. At 72 years old, she carried the wisdom of decades and the scars of a life filled with hardships. She had seen the world change before her eyes, some for the better, some for the worse. Living in a quiet corner of Atlanta, she enjoyed her daily routine of walking to the local market, chatting with neighbors and reminiscing about the past. But one fateful afternoon, her peaceful world was shattered in the most brutal way imaginable. The day started like any other. Eleanor picked up her cloth shopping bag and left her small home, greeting Miss Jenkins next door as she stepped onto the sunlit sidewalk. "Off to the market, Eleanor," Miss Jenkins called out, rocking in her chair. "You know it," Eleanor smiled. "They got fresh peaches today." She adjusted her floral dress and slowly made her way down the block, cane in hand. The heat was relentless, but she didn't mind. What she didn't know was that just a few streets away, trouble was brewing in the form of Officer Greg Larson, a man whose reputation for aggression was whispered about but never addressed. Larson was a cop who thrived on fear. He didn't see people, he saw obstacles, nuisances, and targets. And today he was in a particularly bad mood. Eleanor reached the market, exchanged warm pleasantries with the vendor, and picked out the ripest peaches she could find. As she turned to leave, a commotion caught her attention. Across the street, a young black boy, no older than 13, was being shoved against a police cruiser by none other than Larson. "Don't lie to me, punk," Larson barked, gripping the boy's arm tightly. "I'm not lying. I didn't do anything," the boy cried, his voice trembling. Eleanor's heart clenched. She couldn't just stand there. Without a second thought, she stepped forward. "Excuse me, officer, what seems to be the problem?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Larson turned, his cold blue eyes locking onto her. "Stay out of this, lady," he snapped. "I'm just asking," Eleanor said, standing her ground. "The boy is scared. Maybe there's a misunderstanding." Larson sneered. "And who are you, his grandma?" "No, but I am a concerned citizen," she replied. The market had grown silent. People were watching. Larson's temper flared. He hated being challenged, especially by someone like her. Before Eleanor could react, he grabbed her wrist and yanked her forward. "Listen, old woman, you need to—" Then it happened. With brute force, Larson swung his fist and struck Eleanor across the face. Gasps echoed in the air. Eleanor collapsed onto the pavement, her bag spilling peaches across the ground. A crimson mark spread across her cheek as pain shot through her entire body. Then chaos erupted. "You hit her," someone shouted. "Call an ambulance," another voice rang out. Larson stood frozen for a moment, breathing heavily. Then, as if realizing the weight of his actions, he stepped back. But before he could justify his actions, an older man rushed through the crowd and knelt beside Eleanor. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked. Eleanor winced, touching her cheek. "I'll be fine," she whispered. But what happened next made Larson's blood run cold. The man who had rushed to Eleanor's side pulled out a phone and made a call. Within seconds, the entire energy of the street changed. People murmured, their eyes widening. Larson could feel it, the shift in power. "Who are you calling?" he demanded. The man looked up, his gaze unreadable. "Her son." Larson scoffed. "And who the hell is her son?" The man stood, staring directly at him. "General Marcus Green." Larson's mouth went dry. General Marcus Green. A name that carried weight, power, and a reputation that made even the toughest men shake. A decorated military leader with connections in the highest levels of government. A man who took care of his own. The weight of the name settled in the air like a thunderclap. Larson felt a bead of sweat slide down his temple. He had heard of General Marcus Green before. Everyone in law enforcement had. A legend in the military, Green was a man who commanded not just soldiers, but respect. He had friends in high places, from senators to federal agents. And now, Larson had just assaulted his mother. Eleanor struggled to sit up as a kind bystander helped her to her feet. Her face throbbed, but she remained composed, her pride refusing to let her appear weak. She wasn't the type to cry in front of people, no matter how much it hurt. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. Someone was already recording. "You're in trouble, man," a young man in a hoodie muttered under his breath. Larson's hands clenched into fists. His instinct screamed at him to double down, to regain control of the situation before it spiraled further. "She interfered in police business," he growled, trying to justify his actions. A sharp voice cut through the noise. "That was no police business. That was you harassing a child and then assaulting an elderly woman." A woman in a tailored pantsuit stepped forward. Officer Larson recognized her instantly. Detective Rachel Monroe, one of the department's best investigators. She was tall, confident, and had a no-nonsense air about her. More importantly, she was someone he couldn't just shove aside. Monroe folded her arms. "You're done, Larson," he scoffed. "Oh, come on, Monroe. You're really going to take her side?" Monroe's dark eyes were steady. "Do you even know who she is?" Larson gritted his teeth. "I know she stuck her nose where it didn't belong." Monroe shook her head in disbelief. "That old woman you just assaulted? She raised one of the most powerful men in the country, and guess what? He's on his way here." Larson's heart pounded. "You're bluffing." Monroe smirked. "Am I?" As if on cue, the sound of sirens filled the air. But these weren't standard police sirens. These had a different, heavier presence. Within moments, a convoy of black SUVs roared onto the street, their tinted windows reflecting the afternoon sun. They came to a sharp halt, and the doors swung open. Out stepped a towering man with a commanding presence. His uniform, adorned with medals, was crisp. His sharp eyes scanned the scene with the precision of a battlefield general. General Marcus Green had arrived. Larson's breath caught in his throat. Her son smiled. "You raised me to stand up for what's right, Mom, and no one puts their hands on you and gets away with it." As Larson was dragged to the awaiting police car, the realization of what he had done finally sank in. His career was over, his power was gone, and the name Marcus Green would haunt him for the rest of his life. And that, dear viewers, is what happens when Po1Xware is abused by the wrong people. Officer Larson thought he could get away with anything, until he learned that justice always finds a way. But what do you think? Should his punishment have been worse? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another gripping tale from A1 Storyteller. See you in the next one.